Paramahansa Pariyacharya Strokes Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki, Namacharya Das Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से हो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव श्री गौर भक्तवृंद की, श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की जय, जगन्नाथ श्री श्री राधा दामोदर की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा की जय, श्री गौर निताय की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Prabhupada ki jai. Om Shabda Krishna Prashna Shri Hare Krishna. So we're going to continue our discussion, almost the end of the chapter. Maharaj Pṛthu going back home, and we are in the last 4 verses. We're going to cover 2 verses today, 36 and 37. So we have 36 in the board. So before we chant, we'll just chant the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat nashta prayeshu abhatreshu nityam bhagavata shevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhakti bhavati naistiki mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande shri gurum tiratharanam Ananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, text number 36. Vijaya Vimukto Raja Shutvaitat Abhiyatiyan Balim Tasmai Haranyakre Rajana Pritaveyata Vijaya Vimukto Raja Shutvaitat abhiyatiyan Balim tasmai haranyagre Rajana prataveyatha Vijaya bhimukto Raja Shutvaitat abhiyatiyan Yatiyan Balim tasmai haranyagre Rajana prataveyatha Rajana prataveyatha Vijaya bhimukto Raja Shutvaitat abhiyatiyan Balim tasmai haranyagre Rajana prataveyatha Vijaya Vimukto Raja Shutvaitat abhiyatiyan Mahārāja Shudvaitat abhiyatiya Balim tasmai harantyagre Jana Pṛtave yatha Vijaya vimukho raja Shrutvaitat abhiyatiya Balim tasmai harantyagre Rajana Pṛtave yatha. So we'll do word by word translation. Vijaya abhimuktaha, one who is about to start for victory. Raja, king. Shrutva, hearing. Etat, this. Abhiyati, starts. Yan, on the chariot. Balim, taxes. Tasmai, unto him. Haranti, present. Agre, before. Rajana, other kings. Pṛtave, unto King Pṛthu. Yata, as it was done. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. If a king who is desirous of attaining victory and ruling power chants the narration of Pṛthu Mahārāja 3 times before going forth on his chariot, all subordinate kings will automatically render all kinds of taxes onto him, as they rendered them onto Maharaj Pṛthu, simply upon his order. The purport: since a Kshatriya king is naturally desirous to rule the world, he wishes to make all other kings subordinate to him. This was also the position many years ago when Maharaj Pṛthu was ruling over the earth. At that time, he was the only emperor of this planet. Even 5,000 years ago, Maharaj Yudhishthira and Maharaj Parikshit were the sole emperors of this planet. Sometimes the subordinate kings rebelled, and it was necessary for the emperor to go and chastise them. This process of chanting the narration of the life and character of Pṛthu Mahārāja is recommended for conquering kings if they want to fulfill their desire to rule the world. I'll just chant the verse and the purport and translation of verse 37 as well. We are covering 2 verses. Muktanya sango bhagavati amalam bhaktim udvahan vainyasya sharitam punyam shunyuyat sharavat sharavayet patet. Translation: a pure devotee who is executing the different process of devotional service may be situated in the transcendental position, being completely absorbed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. But even he, while discharging devotional service, must hear, read and induce others to hear about the character and life of Pṛthu Mahārāja. Purport: there is a type of neophyte devotee who is very anxious to hear about the pastimes of the Lord, especially the Rasa Leela chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam. Such a devotee should know by this instruction that the pastimes of Pṛthu Mahārāja are non-different from the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. An ideal king, Pṛthu Mahārāja, exhibited all talents in showing how to rule the citizens, how to educate them, how to develop the state economically, how to fight enemies, how to perform great sacrifices, yajnas, etc. Thus it is recommended for the sahajiyas, or the neophyte devotees, to hear, chant and get others to hear about the activities of Pṛthu Mahārāja, even though one may think himself to be in the transcendental position of advanced devotional service. Before we go to the class, let's chant the invocation mantras. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Takshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saghana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Say another Sunday morning, and we are about to finish off the chapter Pṛthu Mahārāja going back home, back to Godhead. This chapter, the last few verses are actually describing about the benediction of what you get in reciting or reading about the pastimes of Pṛthu Mahārāja. If you happen to be following the Bhagavatam classes in the past week, it very nicely says that if one hears the characteristics of Pṛthu Mahārāja and he is a Brahmana, he will become perfectly qualified Brahmanical powers. If he is Kshatriya, he will become the king. If he is a Vaishya, he will become the master of other Vaishyas and many animals. And if he is a Shudra, he will become the topmost devotee. That was a bit surprising for me. Everybody gets to become topmost, but Shudra become better at their thing. But if the Shudra, he becomes a topmost devotee. And it says, it does not matter whether it's a man or a woman. Anyone with great respect hears this narration of Maharaj Pṛthu will become a father of many children, and he without children will become the richest man, richest of man. And we have many children, and if he is without, he will become the richest man of if he is without money. And if he also hears this narration 3 times, he will become very reputable if he is not recognized in society. He will become a great scholar if he is illiterate. In other words, hearing the narration of Pṛthu Mahārāja is so auspicious that it drives away all bad luck. And then here we also, and just before this verse we have, by hearing narration of Pṛthu Mahārāja, one can become great, increase his duration of life, gain promotion to the heavenly planets, and counteract the contamination of this age of Kali. In addition, one can promote the cause of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Therefore, from all sides, it is advisable for a materialistic person who is interested in such things to read and hear the narration on the life and character of Pṛthu Mahārāja. And we actually come here to these 2 verses. One is saying that if a king wants to rule other kings, if he chants or reads the pastimes of Pṛthu Mahārāja 3 times before he goes on a war or subduing his lower kings who are under him, he will be successful. And this last verse says that even if one is exalted devotee, if he reads this pastime, he should consider reading this pastimes when discharging devotional service. So this is all the benedictions that you get in reading or listening to the pastimes of Pṛthu Mahārāja. Now the first verse, which talks about when a king wants to go and conquer other subordinate kings if they are rebellious, being emperor. How does it relate to us? We are not kings here. We're not, first of all, even our mind doesn't listen to us. How are we even trying to subdue other people under us? So, interesting is, what does everybody chase for in this material world? We all chase for wealth, money, high position and everything. And we want the name and fame. So when we are chasing all these things, we want something. So, and the verses before that actually says that if you want to have kids, if you want to have wealth, if you want to have position in the material world, you can actually, by just reading Pṛthu Mahārāja thing, you'll get everything. So you got materially benefited. Like we come to Srimad Bhagavatam to become pure devotees, but it's actually making us go in another direction where we can actually be recognized and powerful and famous. So this month being Kartik month, many devotees take up some vrat, some austerity. So by reading these things, it actually helps newcomers to actually take up Srimad Bhagavatam seriously, because they are not in the transcendental platform. Now once we are in the transcendental, not in the transcendental platform, we are just trying to be in the transcendental platform, what is that we can take out from these things? Now during Kartik month, as we know, as I said, like many of you are doing austerity, some sacrifices, some things that we'd like, we try to stay away from them. Now what is the ultimate goal of all those sacrifices? To please Kṛṣṇa. Yes, to please Kṛṣṇa. Because if you don't have those, if the ultimate goal is not to please Kṛṣṇa, then there is no use of any of the sacrifices we do. So there are two examples. Like this material world itself is like a prison house. So we have a lot of facilities here. Even if you go to the prison, I was listening to a podcast about a recently retired a jailer, like a prison commander, a prison supervisor, and he was talking about the life of how the prisoners are in the prison. And he says, we might think sitting here that, oh my God, their life should be so depressed and sad and without anything to do. They'll be just thinking about their family, or like thinking about repenting about what they do. He said, like nothing like that happens. Like it happens like that for about maybe a month or two, and after that they get into their routine. Every time the food is available at the right time, and they'll be given jobs to, just as how you go out to work every morning, they have to come out and do some work. They get paid as well, in the sense in their savings, so that when they happen to go out of the jail, they have some money to survive and start a new life if they wish to, whichever way. But he said, like after a month or two, they just go into the routine. There's no difference. The only thing is like it's all within that whole compound, restricted, but whatever happens outside, they get to do inside. Other than they can't meet their parents, their relatives and everything. It happens when a very occasional. But our situations are the same. We are just bounded by a bigger wall of territory. If you have to go to one place to another, you have to get a visa, right? You don't go to holidays every week, right? So we struggle so hard. We go out for take a 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a 1 month holiday to visit a family or go for a vacation. Similarly, the jailers get their relatives come over once in a fortnight or once in a month to see them. So that's the same situation. Now, if a jailer inside the jail thinks that, okay, I'll try to make this situation better, and creates protest, has a union, and fights for his rights inside the jail, which is all valid, but ultimately, what is he missing? He's not fighting for how to get out of this place. He's doing all these things to how to make this place more livable. In any situation or any form, whatever they do, the rules of the jail is still going to be there. It's not going to change. So similarly, when we come and look at our lives, we can try to make numerous arrangements in our life to make it better. But still, the laws that govern the life within this material world will actually subdue us in any way or form. So the intelligence, so when we are trying to chase after something, like how the kings try to chase after power and try to subdue other
kings, subordinate kings, we also chase after life for happiness. Our plans to develop economically and to build a bigger empire, our own empire, so that our kids can be safe and protected, all these things. But eventually, if we are not actually, while doing it, not doing things that to get out of this prison, then what happens? We are stuck here. Like Prabhupada always says that, like how you see the train tracks, two tracks going. We have to be balanced. One is the material life and one is spiritual life. They both have to go together. Only then the train of life will actually reach its destination. If any of it is not aligned, it's going to end up in a very bad accident. Now, if you take the other side of it, like, just another example, when we travel, right? When you have small kids, when you go through the airport to actually catch the flight, I think the most attractive places in the world are the airports. They have so many things. Even outside, you have to take your car and go one place to another to actually get things. In the airport, once you check in and got your immigration the immigration officer, there's everything. The whole world is there. You got fast food, you got designer brands, you got perfumes, you got stationery shops, everything there. Now, a small kid might get really excited. Say, oh my God, this is the best day of my life. My parents don't take me for shopping, and here the whole shopping mall is here in front of me. They get so excited that they just jump from one shop to another, buying lollies and buying sweets. But then the parent is the one who actually knows that the whole purpose of being here is to catch the flight. If you just get worried, if you get so excited about the actual attractions of the airport, then you will actually miss the original purpose which you came for. Now, that is where a spiritual master comes in. We are like those kids who are jumping around and making our own plans to actually enjoy this life, like as though this is the first time we saw. For in this body, this is the first time that we are actually experiencing certain things. But as a soul, we have experienced this multiple amount of times. And we come to know it through reading and understanding. And the spiritual master is the one person who actually guides us. No, this is not the ultimate purpose. You have done this many times before. But why? And Prabhupada always says this thing, why can't you give just this one life for Kṛṣṇa? You have given so many lives for Maya. And you have enjoyed, and you have died, and you have come back again. So many times. Some people might think like, oh, I don't have a kid. And if I have a kid, then my life is successful. What is this life? I don't have an opportunity to show my love to another a newborn. But I myself would have been a mother to many kids. I myself would have been a grandparent. I would have been a dog. I would have been a hog. Everything we have experienced, and we have this human body to actually surrender to Kṛṣṇa. Prabhupada says, why can't you just give one life to Kṛṣṇa and see what happens? So many lives are given to Maya, just this one life, and see what happens. So in that way, we actually try to go closer to Kṛṣṇa. And as jivas, we always have this mentality to control. That's why it said that when we first came from the spiritual world, the first position that was given to us is a demigod. Like I've heard many times, like you're given the first post as the Lord Brahma, and then we kind of slowly degraded ourselves to even like animals, and then somehow we are actually back to human form. So even demigods, we were demigods in one point of time. What to speak of any material position, but still we were not happy. We misused our independence. Why? Because we want that sense of control. Even now, we have that sense of control, like how I can control certain aspects of my life. But slowly, by reading these scriptures and everything, we can actually come to a point where we are not the doers. And from then, we actually start our spiritual journey and we understand what we are, and we actually can be enlightened. And for that, spiritual master is very, very important. Now, apart from this, we make a lot of sacrifices, right? And sacrifices need to be made for a higher purpose. Like, do you go to school? Do you go to school? Do you like to study? When your mom says to ask you to do homework, do you like it and not watch TV or iPad? Do you like it or no? Huh? You like it, but you don't like it. But sometimes you don't like it, but you still end up doing it because your parents say, right? So, do you think that is for your good, or your mom is just trying to be hard on you? Huh? It's for your own good. Great. So, exactly, you got the answer. So, sometimes you do something which you don't like for a bigger cause, right? So, similarly, all the sacrifices we do is for a bigger cause. Now, we might think like desire is the cause of suffering. Actually, desire is not the cause for suffering. What is the cause of suffering? Unfulfilled desire is a cause of suffering. Because once you desire, then it's okay, like you're happy. But because we've not been trained, what happens is we actually move our yardstick of desire one after another. So let's say you have a desire. Now when you have a desire, once desire is fulfilled, what happens? Are you happy? No. You have another desire. Like when everyone, it's not me, it's like everybody. When you finish your uni, what would you do? You just look for, I just need to get a job. I need to get a job. My life is settled. Like you have a yardstick of 50K or 75K or whatever. So once you get this job, what happens? You're so happy. For how long? For 1 year. And then after that, oh, I see my friends are getting more salary than me, or like, I need to progress in my career. And then you put another yardstick, and then the other yardstick. Then it's like, oh, I need to get married. Like if I'm going old, like, then you need to. And then once you get married, what happens? You got money, but then you need to have a house. So then you put a mortgage. So basically you're signing up to be a slave of the bank for X number of years. And then, of course, the family will pressure you to have kids. When you have kids, then it's a lifelong mortgage until they get, and it never ends sometimes. So it's not wrong. Vedically, it is actually recommended that a person does certain things at certain point of time so that he's controlled, he's stable, he's actually feeling satisfied. But the problem is with the mind. We think our happiness is when we reach there. So every time we reach a desire, achieve a desire, immediately the mind goes to another desire. So if we are able to understand that part of the mind, then we might be able to understand how much that we need and what is that we need to be happy. At the end of the day, we don't need much. But if you have the same desire, now this is the material side, but if you have the same desire, like you never satisfied, but for the sake of Kṛṣṇa, then it's a different story. Now I might say, like, you might be thinking like, oh, then I should not have desire. No, even with chanting, you never stop anywhere. Like let's say you're chanting nicely. Does it mean like, okay, I'm chanting nicely, that's it? No. Then you say, how can I improve my chanting more? Right? When you're doing nice service, when you have satisfaction, then what will you do? You'll think like, how can I do more service? Or like, how can I help others come and do, like I'm getting the satisfaction, so how can I get other people to get the satisfaction? We'll never be satisfied in one way or form or another. So the point to be taken is addiction is not good or bad. But to what you're addicted determines whether it's good or bad. If you're addicted to junk food, that is bad. But the same addiction, if it's addicted to healthy food, sattvic food, then it nourishes the body. Right? So Kṛṣṇa very much says nicely in Bhagavad Gita, it's not aversion. Attraction, if you're like, I'm just paraphrasing, if you're not disturbed by attraction and what is that, Prabhu? Aversion. So if you're equal to both of them, then you're a yogi. So that is where we need to. But so the whole point is changing our consciousness from material to spiritual, and that will give us a great feeling of satisfaction, because this is uplifting and other one is like it's degrading. I like the way Nityananda Maharaj gives one nice example in what is that called, spiritual economics, in one of lectures. It's also a part of the book of Hiding in Unnatural Happiness. He says about when you enter a bus or a train, right? When you see a lot of free spots to sit, you'll be thinking, oh, which seat can I take? There is opportunity, variety, right? So there is different options for you. You'll go and sit somewhere because you have a lot of options. Should I do this? Should I do that? And when you sit there, and sometimes it's great. Let's say you're not in Sydney, you're somewhere outside, you're traveling or in a vacation. So you want to look out and see the nice greenery. You sit in one place and then you look the other side. There's very nice greenery on the other side. Oh, maybe I should have sat there. You'll go sit there because there's options. And then suddenly there is other place and you go sit in another place. So your mind will be like oscillating because you just want to capture the best. Now it's the same way. He says that will actually, even there's more options in material life, it will only frustrate you more, having more options. Now if you got into a train and there's only one seat available and you're tired, what will you do? You will just go and sit down. Thank God I got a seat. So having less options in material world is actually a blessing. So sometimes you might see like some devotees are rich or famous or like, they have certain things. But sometimes I might feel like being a poor is also a blessing. Because when you have money, you will want to travel, then you want to eat outside, you want to go and see, you might go to the US or you might go to Europe to see temples, but then that is only like 10% of your time spent in temples. The rest 90% you want to sightseeing, you want to go visit the thing. But if you're poor, you don't even the thought doesn't come to your mind. It's not affordable. So I might just take shelter of Shri Radha Gopinath. I don't even have money to go to Vrindavan. So Radha Gopinath's mandir is my holy dham. It's less of material opportunity is actually much better. But in the same way, Maharaj says, if you have this variety in spiritual things, then you might actually enjoy more. You want to do book distribution, you want to do preaching, you want to do prashad distribution, you want to do, help in the kitchen. Everything you do will only satisfy you. So that's the difference between material and spiritual consciousness. Now this next verse talks about that even if one is executing different process of devotional service and may be situated in transcendental position, being completely absorbed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, but even he, while discharging his devotional service, must hear, read and induce others to hear about the character and life of Pṛthu Mahārāja. So Prabhupada here says that there are types of neophyte devotees who are very anxious to hear only about the Rasa-lila pastimes of the Lord. They go straight to the 10th chapter about how Kṛṣṇa was with the different gopis in the rasa dance, and they like that part of it rather than any of these chapters which talks about different aspects of the life of devotees. Now we might think, we will not do that, but even in ISKCON there was a club called Gopi Bhava Club, when Prabhupada was present in this material world, this material realm. And when Prabhupada heard it, he was so angry. He was so angry. And they said that Bhagavad Gita is not a very high class literature. There is other literatures which are like, much more enlightening and talking about the different intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. When Prabhupada heard it, he was so angry. He called them and he chastised them like anything. And it was not only just men, both men and women joined groups and they called themselves the Gopi Bhava Club. So Prabhupada says, like, if you read these 4 books like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, that is enough. Everything that is there in these books. Because spiritual knowledge is not something that you can grasp, but it's something that is actually revealed within your heart. Like, I've had experiences, you might also have experience number of times when you are very sincere and you chant, you suddenly feel this unknowing happiness or uplifting feeling. And the problem is, you feel very nice, and the next day you come, okay, I'm going to sit and chant the same way, and I'm going to feel the same uplifting thing. That doesn't come the next day. Kṛṣṇa is like, okay, you got, I gave you a taste, but not every day. You'll become diabetic. So the sweetness is only for some time. So we all have, it's not that anybody is higher or lower. Everybody would have had that thing. And that's why we are sticking to it. Being in devotee space, running around, doing all the services. Before, spiritual masters or sannyasis didn't involve much in material activities. Now if you look at our own spiritual masters, they are doing from everything from top to bottom. From being the management to dealing with problems with the grahasthas and everything in between, they're dealing with it. And brahmacharis, I think most of you would have come to have a peaceful life. I always say to Kamsari Sen Prabhu, what did you sign up for? Because they all came. I even once in a point of time, I wished I were going to brahmacharya ashram, but it didn't happen because when I became a devotee, I was already engaged, so that was not an option. But I would feel sometimes jealous of the boys, like young age, giving their life to Kṛṣṇa. But then I tell to Kamsari Sen, like, I think even if you worked outside, you would not be as stressful as you're working inside the temple. Like, there are so many things that Sriman Arshima, like Ishwareshwar Prabhu, when he was the temple commander, and Bhava Prabhu, they all do so many things. Now, what is the cost? They're actually doing it out of love. Because until and unless you have actually had some feeling of, I actually felt within me that the taste of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, it is very hard for anybody to stay in Kṛṣṇa conscious or be in a devotee life and do all these things and just still show up every day in temple and do service. Because the taste, if taste is not there, if Kṛṣṇa has not shown them just a glimpse of the spiritual ecstasy, what we call as like Brahma Sokyam, the happiness and spirituality, we won't be sticking around. So we have to be grateful for what we have been given. Now, here it says about even exalted devotees should actually hear and read about these pastimes. Now, what does exalted devotees mean? We are not exalted, certainly not me. Now, how do we continue all these things? Sometimes when you've been in the moment, you don't have to be a senior devotee or something like that. Sometimes when suddenly devotees call ourselves senior devotees, look at like, I'm not old yet. Like, I'm still have hair in my head, on top of my head. So that doesn't hit sometimes we don't think like that. But if you be in the moment for some days, even if you're a couple of years in the movement and you start preaching or doing some classes, people under you will start glorifying you, praising you for what you actually are doing, which is something that's Kṛṣṇa's, the praise, the glorification that comes because you're engaging in the service of Kṛṣṇa. But then it is a difficult thing to, if you're not stable within yourself, to reconcile within yourself, because that can actually take you to another path of degradation. If somebody makes you, do you have class leaders, or like, what is that called? What is that called? SRC, student representative. Like, how do they behave? Do they behave very bossy, or like they're like kind and taking care of everyone in your school? Kind of bossy, but mostly kind. Okay, but bossy is also there a little bit, isn't it? They feel that everybody needs to listen to them, right? Sometimes, yeah. So this happens. This happens in our devotee life as well. When we kind of have that praise coming in, we kind of feel like, okay, everybody should now recognize me, listen to me, and it becomes harder if you go from your own setting to a different setting where people don't know you. Then you kind of look around like, why people are not recognizing me, like when I walk in. And I'm saying I've been guilty of that thing as well, because it human nature. You suddenly you were used to certain things, and suddenly you go, so now you have to go and tap a devotee, I'm here. So it happens. And when we understand that it happens, then you can at least try to solve it. When you don't even understand that is happening to you, then there is very less opportunity to even try to address that fault that is within you, that pride that's growing within you. So that's very important. So how do we actually understand, how do we actually be humble? Now, the way to be humble is three things. First, you need to understand that I'm not the doer. Whatever happens, I'm not the doer. And the second thing is that we have to make it deep in our heart that I do not deserve this. And the last thing is that we always have to see ourselves as servants. Like once Prabhupada was actually giving a class in Europe, very early days, and he was talking about the 4 classes of society, like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. In very early days, like a lot of people were not devotees or even not even started practicing out there in the class, and one person got up and asked Prabhupada in a very challenging way, so which class are you? Which class are you? You don't know? Which year are you in school? Year 5. Coincidentally, Prabhupada also said, I'm the 5th class. I said, this person, like, you didn't explain the 5th class. I said, like, I'm the servant of all the 4 classes. So Prabhupada, being such a highly elevated representative of the God, of Lord, he said, when somebody asked, which class are you? He said, like, I'm 5th class. I'm the servant of all the 4 classes. And there's an example in the Sri Sampradaya. We all know the Sri Sampradaya, Ramanujacharya, who's the Acharya of Sri Sampradaya. We know about this, how his spiritual master, Tirukoshiyur, he actually gave him that the mantra, Om Namo Narayanaaya Namaha. So, do you know how we got this mantra? So, he lives in Srirangam, and Tirukoshiyur Nambi, he lives in close to Madurai. So, there's about 110 kilometers distance between where Ramanuja used to stay and then his spiritual master. So, he went to his spiritual master, basically traveled 110 kilometers. And then when he went to meet him, so he was inside the room, or like, and he asked him, who's come? And Ramanujacharya said that, I, Ramanuja, has come. You know what his spiritual master said? Come back after I die. And he said, he didn't understand. So it's like, what's this? So he went back. So 110 kilometers one way and then back. He came the other time, next time. And then he asked the same, he said, who's this? He said, like, I, Ramanuja, has come to meet you. So like, come back after I die. Then he didn't understand this. This doesn't happen 1 time, 2 times, 17 times. So you put 17 into 17 into not 110, 220, because 2 and fro. Times he actually went to meet his spiritual master. He just said the same answer and asked him to go back. Now he was confused. What is happening? So 18th time he came, and then he was standing outside, and his spiritual master asked him, who's there? And he says, I am your servant, Ramanuja has come. So what his spiritual master said is, come back after the I has died. Like if you had the feeling of I have come here, after the feeling of I has died, come back. So 18th time he said, like, I, the servant, your servant, Ramanuja has come. So then he called him, like as though nothing happened. And then he gave this mantra, that secret mantra. Okay? If the one of the main characteristics of being ISKCON is, like, if somebody says it's confidential, we actually go and say it outside. So that's the secret mantra. And we get it maybe from Ramanujacharya. So his Guru said that this mantra, Namo Om Namo Narayanaya Namaha, this is a divine mantra, and if somebody chants this mantra, they will be delivered and they'll go to Vaikuntha. He said, do not share with anyone. And just after he comes meeting his Guru Maharaj, got the mantra, what does Ramanujacharya do? He climbs the higher steps of the temple, and he calls everybody and he says, please everybody chant this mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya Namaha. And then he says, if you chant this one, you will get liberated. His Guru Maharaj would be like so annoyed with himself, disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. He calls him and says, what have you done? I told you if you say this one, you will go to hell. And Maharaj, Ramanuja said, like, that's okay. If just by me going to hell, if so many people are going to be liberated, might as well I go to hell. Now that is the mood of a devotee. That's the mood of a devotee. The reason why we take our chanting or our spiritual activity, our service very for granted is because we didn't get this Hare Krishna mantra by walking how much time? 17 times 220 kilometers. We were begged by devotees. They came. They actually they pleaded us. They gave sweets. I know I don't know if you know Bankim Prabhu. You know Bankim Prabhu. I've told this one. When we were having a group, Bankim Prabhu was very excited. Like, he was one of a sincere person. Like, now he's still the same now. But then that time he was thinking we are very pakka in timing. So if we say 9 o'clock, he'll be there at 8:50. So sometimes he used to like surprise me. Why is this guy so early? When he said that class at 9, he's here at 8:55. So he was very sincere in that. So when we were staying alone, not married then. So we used to say we are going for Mangalati the next day, Saturday evening. So you want to come? So he was coming regularly for Mangalati as well. So I did not know for first 2 or 3 weeks. So when you come for Mangalati, you want to, sometimes, just entice the devotee with different things. Now they don't do it. Before they used to have the Mangala sweets outside, leave it there. So around 5:45, we'll just go out and have some Mangala sweet. So he didn't know, a new person. The third week, then we are chanting and he said, Prabhu, Mangala sweet. So we actually went out. Then we came to know, like, he was very sincere. He was not coming for everyday morning for, I don't know for what he's coming. He's coming for Krishna, so for Mangala sweet specifically. So like that, these kind of things happen. So we were actually given the Hare Krishna mantra with all these nice goodies. We did not have to suffer a lot. So sometimes when life goes a bit, or spiritual life goes a bit topsy-turvy, it's easy for us to leave. Now, if you have spent about 20 years or 16 years studying in a uni, if you don't like a job, what do you do? Yeah, you can leave the job, but do you decide not to work? No, because you spent so many years just equipping yourself for that particular skill so that it can actually give you the opportunity to enjoy, so you will actually find another job, right? So, but with spiritual knowledge, because we don't have the gratitude, we sometimes just misuse it. Now, the last thing is it's not about hearing and reading, but also inducing others to read about the pastimes of Pṛthu Mahārāja. Now, with spirituality, one of the most things, if you really want to advance, is sharing. If you don't share, if you don't look after the welfare of other people, very less opportunity that you will. I'm not even saying that you won't go back to Godhead. Prabhupada said, following 4 regulated principles and chanting 16 rounds, you will go back to Godhead. Not to put anybody in a very precarious situation. But if you want to really taste the mercy of Krishna or the blessing of Gaurnitai, you have to reach out to people like Jagai and Madai. And that was one of my biggest inspiration of book distribution, because you still find some Jagai and Madais coming into temple, but you find more in the streets. You reach out somebody with a book and you try to help them out. Prabhupada is very pleased. Very, very pleased. So you need to have that compassion. Once you actually had the nectar, you should have that nature to share the nectar. It might be a bit uncomfortable, but it's worth the effort. So I'll stop here. Any questions, comments? No? Okay. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki